What's up, everybody? It's your coach Jaron here with Forge. So to continue on our series on the squat, now we're going to learn the barbell box squat. Now, hopefully by this time you have mastered the goblet squat to both a box and the freestanding version, and it's time to progress in our ability to load the lift. So we're going to return to the box to emphasize the same key aspects that we did with the goblet box squat and teach you how to properly sit back into the hips and initiate the squat correctly. To do so, we're going to start in our squat rack. We want to set the bar at approximately sternum or collarbone height. The reason we don't want to start with the weight too high is that we have to come up onto our tiptoes to get out of the rack, or if we're nearing the end of a heavy lift, we have to come up to put the bar back, which is always a bad recipe. We don't also want to set the bar too low, because if we have to crouch down really far to pick the weight up, it makes it very difficult to get into proper position before unracking the weight. So around collarbone height tends to be a good height for most people. When it comes to beginning any of our compound lifts, we always want to find our proper position and a strong brace before we ever bring the bar out of the rack. One of the most common mistakes that I see is that people haphazardly pick it up and assume that the lift starts once the weight's on your back. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The lift starts before we even touch the bar. So first, we want to make sure that the bar is centered in the rack. Most bars are going to have knurling at even intervals that we can use as reference points. So we want to think about the things that we can do to ensure that we are properly aligned on the bar with the weight as evenly distributed as possible. And the way that we do that is by going through a checklist. That being said, we're always going to start with our grip. Now, your width on the bar is going to depend both on your overall body size, but also your shoulder mobility and ability to get the bar down into position on your back. Regardless, we want to find an even grip width relative to the knurling or the rings on your particular bar. You have a few options as far as how to use your hands. We can go with a full grip, or we can do something that I prefer, which is actually placing the bar between the ring and the pinky finger. For a lot of people, this can help to ease tension on the wrist and also make it easier to get the upper back tighter when gripping the bar. Once we have our grip width set, we want to swing our head underneath the bar and pull the shoulder blades back together tightly. Now you have options as far as how high up your neck to place the bar. You can go with a high bar position where the bar rests more across the traps, or you can go with a low bar position where the bar rests more across the rear delts. Which one is stronger for you is going to depend on your individual leverages, so don't necessarily copy where I place the bar, and if you're starting out, find a position where it feels the most comfortable. Regardless of your bar position, we want to dig the bar into the back and work on retracting the shoulder blades and creating a nice tight shelf for the bar to rest on. Once we've created that nice tight shelf, we want to go through a series of breaths to ensure proper alignment of our pelvis and rib cage and adequate tightness in through the upper back. So at this position here, you're going to inhale through the nose and exhale. As you exhale fully, you should feel your obliques engage and your rib cage drop down. From this position, you'll probably be able to get just a little bit tighter in through your upper back. Then we're going to go through a second breath sequence. And this time what we want to emphasize is feeling the pressure evenly down through our feet and feeling our hamstrings engage as we pull the hips directly underneath the shoulder blades. In this position, I've achieved maximum tightness and the bar naturally almost wants to come out of the rack. From here, I'm going to inflate my obliques to create my brace. Once I have that pressure, I'm simply going to squeeze the glutes to stand up. And you'll notice the bar will come naturally out of the rack, but I have not lost any of my position or my tightness. Once we've unracked the bar, it's important to take a second and let the weight just settle into our body. We want to feel the weight drop down into our heels, and we want to allow for our body to connect with the weight before beginning any movement. Once we've done this, we can begin our walkout. It's important that our walkout happens in as few steps as possible. We don't want to do a lot of shuffling to find our stance, because each step that we take loosens our position and takes away from our ability to brace effectively, especially under maximum load. So once we've unracked and let the weight settle, we want to walk out in about 3 steps. 1 step back, another to the side, and maybe one more to correct. And then we've found our optimal squatting position. Once we have this position, we still have our brace. We're going to then reinflate through the nose to top off the pressure that we have in through the body. And then we're simply going to sit back to the box the same as we did with the goblet box squat. So, all together, let's run through our checklist. We've got the bar evenly in the rack. We set our grip. We swing underneath the bar. We find the tension in through the upper back. We're going to exhale to drop the ribs down. Wiggle just a little tighter. Exhale again to find the pressure in our feet. Inflate to brace. Stand it up. Let the weight settle. Be in our walkout. And top off our air. And then sit back. At the bottom of the lift, very similar to the goblet squat, I've sat back into my hips. I'm maintaining contact between my heels, little toes, and big toes, and I'm actively driving the knees out to keep the hips engaged. From here, we're going to push through the ground and drive up into the bar, squeezing the glutes at the top. I'll do a couple reps. As with the goblet squat to a box, it's important not to plop down to the box. We want to sit in a way where we're building tension all the way at the bottom. With the box squat, even though our weight is fully on the box, we're not fully relaxed. We're always maintaining total body tension and connection with the floor. We're pausing on the box to develop speed and power from the weakest position. Typically, when the weight is too heavy, most people will skip the bottom of their squat and they'll squat high because it allows them to move more weight. What the box squat does is allows us to emphasize that bottom position, and we develop strength in overcoming inertia by starting from a paused position and having to drive from a dead stop to the top of the lift. Now, the ways that we incorporate a box squat may vary. If you are brand new, then we're going to be doing our primary strength work to a box to help reinforce proper mechanics and build strength in the position where people are typically the weakest. The box squat helps to emphasize strength in through the hamstrings, the glutes, and the adductors or the groin, which is where most of our squat strength should be coming from, as opposed to the quads and the knees. We may use the box squat as a max effort or a heavy movement to build strength, in which case we would be doing it for a higher number of sets of lower reps. We could be using the box squat for dynamic work or for speed, in which case, again, we're working with higher sets of fewer reps with the intent of building speed and power out of that position. Or we could be using the box squat for repetitions to, again, build muscle and strength, but this time with more moderate weights and moderate reps. Regardless of how it's incorporated in your program, the technical aspects are the same. So when you're doing the lift, emphasize technique, emphasize the position at the bottom, and really use this variation to help build up your weak points in the squat and teach you proper mechanics for a free squat.